Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again. I'm your host, Doc Rotten, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest streaming and video on-demand horror movies. Why did I pause? I don't know, but let's keep going. Each week, my co-hosts, Jeff Mohr, Crystal Cleveland, Dave Dreher, Christopher G. Mohr, and myself will take a look at various spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings, and occasionally we'll do a documentary like we're going to do tonight. We are going to review Living with Chucky. Yes, we're going to get into Chucky and Child's Play and the whole franchise and the people behind it. We're in for some good stuff. All right, let me introduce you to the rest of the crew, starting off with the one and only Jeff Mohr. Jeff, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Good to see you guys. Good to talk to you.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, this is going to be a good time. Yes?
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Also joining us is award-winning filmmaker and Chucky fan, Christopher G. Mohr. He's got a Chucky behind him.
There we go. Always forget which.
He's pointing at everything but Chucky, but go ahead.
Yes, I'm a huge Chucky fan, so I'm glad we could talk about this. And yeah, I'd see a film directed by someone who was influenced by Chucky when she was a little girl and now is making movies, making her own movies.
It's going to be a big part of our discussion. So what we're going to get into tonight is we're going to give you our first impression of the movie, and it'll be spoiler free. I don't know. I guess this kind of has spoilers in it, maybe. I don't know. Not really. And then we'll get into a discussion about all the elements of the movie, all the things that it brings up and whatnot. And then we'll wrap things up with a score 1 to 5. And our favorite element, it's not really a scene because of the documentary. So I guess some kind of historical importance of what they bring up, I think is a good thing to go for. And we hope you enjoy not only this review, but any of those that we have on the site. And if you do, please hit the subscribe, like, share with a friend button. And each little click will help us find more people just like you.
If you don't, we'll send Chucky after
Chucky, yes. Yes, that is true. That'll be frightening. So don't do it. All right. I don't have a card ready because I've had a busy week. Hey, so let's just run through
Chucky stole it.
He did, bugger. All right. Synopsis: a filmmaker who grew up alongside Chucky, the killer doll, seeks out the other families surrounding the Child's Play films as they recount their experiences working on the ongoing franchise and what it means to be part of the Chucky family. So that is a great, great synopsis. The film is going to be released on Screambox in April, so check it out. It's written and directed by Kyra, Elise, Gardner. We'll explain her relationship here shortly. And of course, it has a lot of people involved with it. Brad Dourif, of course, Jennifer Tilly, Christine Elise, John Walters. That was fun. John Walters, not Walters, but Walters. Billy Boyd, who I forgot was part of the franchise. Fiona Dourif, Tony Gardner, Don Mancini, David Kirshner, and many others. Alex Vincent, we can't say that without Alex Vincent because he's a big part of this. And then a few other surprises throughout the genre and fans. So it's going to be a fun discussion. So let's start off with our first impressions. What are you laughing at, Jeff? I'm going to make you go first.
I looked at myself and I laughed. I just was like...
That's what I do a lot. I look at myself and laugh. All right. What was your first impression of Living with Chucky?
I like this a lot. I wasn't really looking forward to it, but there was enough variety in the people that they talked to. Some intimately connected with Chucky movies, some not, but people that are involved in movies, and mostly people that were involved in horror. But I liked it a lot. Everything from the recap of the movies and how they went forward and how they decided on what they were doing. I thought that was interesting. And then, bringing different people in, bringing different people back, and the idea of practical versus CGI. And I don't know, I could go on and on. There's a whole segment towards the end relating to family and how if you have a family, you're forced to be away from your family, and the film crew becomes your surrogate family, but then you leave them and may not come back, and may not see them again for 5 years or something. So they seem like family, but then now you're separated from them and you're back to your biological family. But anyway, that stuff I thought was really interesting and heartfelt. So I enjoyed the hell out of it.
Yeah, set this one aside. One thing I just want to point out while you're up here is what's interesting that people may not know is that before we reviewed the Chucky TV series on Sci-Fi, you never saw any of the films and
I saw the first one.
The first one, but you weren't really interested in doing the show and everything. But we did it because, well, you were on the show, and from there you watched all of them, right? You watched. All of them?
You guys kept talking about all the people, the characters that were going to be brought back, and I thought, well, I need to at least know who these people are, and I binged watched all the films and had a ball doing it.
Yeah, so and then really enjoyed the show, right? You enjoyed the
yeah. So that's me. Condemnation prior to investigation.
I love that story. I love that story. That how you basically discovered this franchise after, as it was going into a TV series.
Doc made me do it, and I thanked him.
One of the few times I actually did the right thing. All right, Christopher G. Mohr, sir, what was your first reaction to Living Chucky? Which, before I get into it, is this a film that you were anticipating because of what you were following?
Well, I'd heard about it a while back, and I just started following Kyra on social media and stuff, and just watching the process of her just sort of like, bringing this all together, and then also trying to find a home for it, find some kind of distribution deal and stuff, and so I kind of watched the process of this, just seeing somebody who's, was influenced by filmmaking because her dad was in it, and from, I think in this thing talked about from 3 years old on, she's had this kind of been a part of this franchise, and how it's influenced her and how it's and actually up until we recorded this, I just figured out a missing piece of the puzzle. I was wondering, because there's like all these different people that are part of this the interviews and stuff, and some of them have nothing to do with the Chucky franchise, but they actually were in films that Tony Gardner actually did effects on, like Bad Hair, Zombieland Double Tap.
Oh, there we go.
Nice.
And also Curse of Bridge Hollow, which Marlon Wayans is in. So I just figured out like what, and so that kind of actually, the whole thing of family kind of expands how you get to know these people and you make connections and stuff, and you become friends within the process of making these films. And as someone that's a filmmaker, I can sort of definitely appreciate that. I have friendships and people that I've grown to love and know and work with and love working with because maybe I met them on a film set, or they acted, or I helped them out on their project. So yeah, I think this is a really fun documentary that I think really hits its stride probably towards the last third of it, because then when it gets to the real heart of it, which is Kyra and her relationship with her dad, and also like Jeff mentioned, like it is all about family, because like I've made films with people and I've never seen them again, but I have some people who are still in my life to this day, and so it is kind of interesting that you cross these paths and then you spend so much time working on all these other projects that they become your extended family, because you don't see your own family, and you kind of wondering, like, I think by the end it becomes very heartfelt when you see like these people that are they're more than just people who are making movies. They're actually their dads, or they're family members. They have loved ones. And so you put all this blood, sweat, and tears and things. And sometimes, you have to find that right kind of balance with things. But also I think throughout the process of this, you see these other characters, you see like the relationship between Fiona and her dad, Brad, Dourif, and you see all these other people, how maybe early on they were part of it, but then they reconnected, and then sometimes they become really great friends out of it, like Fiona and Don Mancini, and so, or just even the guy who played Andy in the very first one, and how sort of
Alex Vincent,
he got kind of thrown to the side after the second film, but then he sort of was able to come back and reconnect with all these people that helped to sort of put him on the map, at least when it came to like being an actor and being known for something. But yeah, so it is great to sort of see all these different people and how they've become a part of this franchise in different ways or fashion. And also how a lot of these people, even if they don't have anything to do with it, they're big fans of the films in general. And we all sort of like can remember those moments from the Chucky films. And then it's also how Child's Play, how it's been one of those franchises, disregarding the crappy remake. They've really done a great job of not, I think Tony Tipone talks about like at some point you go from like either doing a comedy version of it or putting it in space.
Putting in space.
And he's like, I'm so glad he didn't put it in space. And I agree with you, Tony. It was great seeing Tony Tipone in this as well.
Yep.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of love that went into this that you don't see in a lot of documentaries. A lot of these documentaries don't have, I mean, they have some kind of a theme, but not as much as a big theme as what they have when it comes to family that this has. And also we have those little stories that we see when it comes to working on the sets, and we did this or that during this film, but also it is kind of interesting to see the relationships between people and working with each other, becoming friends with each other, that kind of stuff that goes beyond the normal sort of stuff we might see like a special features on a DVD or Blu-ray. So yeah, so I think this is a really special documentary. You can sort of see how, the Kyra, how she kind of spearheaded this, somebody who she went to like film school and stuff and did all these kind of things, and now did this documentary that kind of celebrates how her love of movies and movie making came about, and also to her love for her father, and her father being such a big part of her life, and as well as Chucky. So yeah, I think this is a really sort of a really nice, beautiful documentary that has a real heart to it.
Excellent. We did you, Jeff, right?
Yep.
Okay, thought so. A brain fart. Okay, so I was looking forward to this, but I didn't really expect it to be really any different than many other documentaries that we occasionally cover, and then I'll watch on my own. I knew it was going to be about Chucky, and I was eager to watch it because I love the franchise, especially after the last few entries, and the more that Don Mancini gets involved with it, I think the movies improve. So I was looking forward to just learning more about it, but this one actually surprised me as it got into like I guess the third act, if you want to say a third act about a documentary. But there's a point when this becomes very personal, and it builds up to it in a natural way. So it really, because of the way it gets scattered at first, and then everybody comes back and under Don Mancini's care, right? And I guess David Kirshner as well, who is in this a lot, and who is the I guess the producer element of it. And the thing does something, and the documentary does something risky. I in my opinion, it's very risky. You guys can back me up on this, or just say I'm making shit up. But to me, it's risky that the director of the documentary steps in front of the camera. There is a famous documentary director that does that, but we will put that guy aside, right? I'm not going to mention who he is. But anyway, so she does that here. But in this case, with this documentary and the subject matter, it elevates this documentary and it really puts it in a special place. It grounds it in one way and it elevates it in another. It makes it more emotional and more important and more poignant. And the actors that are featured, have great relationships with each other, and the special effects artist, because Tony Gardner, I don't know if you guys weren't aware, was the special effects artist that took over for Yeager, right? Chuck Yeager, after he left the film series.
Kevin Yeager.
Chuck Yeager is somebody. Who's Chuck Yeager? Is that somebody else?
Broke the sound barrier.
There you go. The guy that broke the sound barrier left the series. No, Kevin Yeager. And then Tony Gardner took over. He's been with it ever since, right? And of course his daughter is the one that's doing it. So, and I think, did he take over? He took over with Bride, right? Was it Bride he took over with? Bride Chucky? I feel like that's right.
I think so.
Yes. I think so.
Yes.
Yeah.
I may have that wrong. But anyway, it's and the challenges that he went through, even that alone is fascinating. There's a lot of fascinating things with this. How the tone and the subject matter changes from film to film or increases during the film with the LGBTQ stuff, which is a very strong element of the series now, the franchise and the TV series, but the franchise is what I meant there. And you basically, it explores what, the Chucky character and how the villains became the characters you cared about in these films. And then this kind of mixed that up a little bit, even though you really care, and enhanced it in one way, but then gave us characters to really care about with Fiona Dora's character and bringing Alex Vincent back as his character and others as well. So I don't know. This is expertly put together. It's really well done. It really brings out a lot of interesting conversations with the interviews. To me, it might be one of the better documentaries I've seen. I really enjoyed this.
Well, and I think making a documentary, you definitely have to have, you definitely have to work out that there has to be some kind of underlying theme or some kind of structure to what you're doing. Because I think you have a lot of these, especially when it comes around like fandom and stuff, a lot of documentary, like I was even part of the one on Elm Street, but a lot of these, it's almost, it's all these individual stories, and it's almost like throwing a lot of stuff at the wall, but there's no really big underlying theme, or you're not really supposed to build to something. And this one, it almost kind of tricks you in the very beginning. It's almost like, oh, these are about all these different movies. And I also love that they took the time to have the crafting of the doll throughout the whole
yes. Oh yeah
like the segments, even towards the end, it's like where you see like the making of the head and the fingers and the little shirt and stuff. And so but and I think that kind of detail, which makes it really cool, but it starts off just like a lot of these things you see, like we've seen, like, was it the Crystal Lake Memories one or whatever, and all these documentaries about it, where it's just like, okay, this is about this film, this is about this film, this is about this film. But yeah, at some point it kind of shifts it to where it's still about all these things, but it's more than that. It's more about the people involved. It's more about the relationships that have occurred and have continued to extend beyond these films, and how they're still making these films since then and still able to still work together, and they become friends because of the process of making this.
Family, even.
and Hollywood is known for a lot of, like Mommy Dearest, it's known for a lot of fractured families. And so it's kind of nice to see a story that is about loving people that have become loving, families and different generations within the business. Like, I love the parts between Fiona and Brad Dourif.
Yes.
That part where he's talking
segment
about how I love, she impresses me. It's like, it's so sweet. This guy who's mostly, cursing people as a doll.
Exactly.
But then I'll just, and I just find it a very, very sweet. You can just see how much Kyra loves her dad, and how much the dad loves her, and and you could see that. And this isn't manufactured. This isn't something for like a Lifetime movie. This is real. Yep. You can see that in the process of this, and he's like a producer on this film as well. And so that's probably how she was able to get all these different people to interview with it. But it's beautiful to see a positive type thing, because again, we are dealing with the Chucky, the Child's Play franchise. There's some other elements we could have got into that has to deal with more
legal things,
controversy or issues or whatever. But the main, thread is dealing with, how it started, how it went along, and how they were all able to sort of like be who they wanted to be, and do all these different kind of cool things, and become a family by the end of it, or be a family throughout the whole process of it. And so I think that story is more beautiful than anything you could ever concoct on the page, or even just like that story about how Fiona's mom died, and how John Mancini, who incorporated her into this franchise, how he was her best friend and is still her best friend, So even though he mentioned like, yeah, but she's old enough to be my daughter. So there's some really beautiful moments that, sure, we have all those really cool things. As someone that's a sucker for watching, I buy films just for special feature. I just bought the new Dragon Slayer 4K.
Oh no,
Blu-ray.
Dragon Slayer 4K.
Yeah,
Wow.
so I could watch all the special features because the guy, what's his name? He did the special.
Phil Tippett.
Phil Tippett did some special stuff for it. So I just wanted to see special features. I may not even get around watching the film just because I just wanted special features. So yeah, that stuff is cool and still and they feel like they probably took some stuff from special features from other films at the same time. But yeah, this has more heart than most documentaries have of its ilk, because I've seen a lot of these. I've seen there's the Evil Dead one, Hail to the Deadites. It's about all the fans and stuff. But again, it's all pieces there. Yeah. And this one has a lifeline that goes throughout that makes it stand out.
This is more akin to the Mark Patton one about the,
which is more of a, there's more of a theme that makes sense than just throwing all the things that are similar,
Yeah. And I think her relationship with Dolores also with all the kids, right, with her and Alex, because you think that they all in their own ways grew up with this franchise from very young ages and together in a lot of ways, right? So that's interesting too. And I think you get the best out of it because of that relationship. I think the interviews with all the actors in here are because of that. From David Kirshner, there's a part where the two of them are talking, and it's really sweet too.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. It's like there are moments where it's almost like, I think most documentaries, it feels very, I hate to say it feels very staged or very written or just feels very like snippet. In this one, there's parts where it almost like breaks the fourth wall in the midst of them talking. Like I think there's one part where it's like I wasn't expecting us to get in to talk about this or that. And I think that's not what makes this a little bit different. It makes you cognizant of the camera. And then this isn't just like, thrown together and looked all polished and stuff. I think that element gives the human heart element to it. And that's what makes it more interesting to me as somebody who's seen a lot of documentaries on movies.
Yeah, there's a moment that I think she asked David Kirshner a question. He's like, nobody's ever asked me that question.
Yeah, that's what I was sort of talking about in regards to that.
And I really love the Don Mancini part because it's great to have a creator that is so enthusiastic and involved in his own creation when he could have easily been either pushed out or just walked away, right? Because there was a time when he got less and less involved, but then came back in and got more and more involved. And that's because of the relationship with David Kirshner, right? And that relationship is the foundation of the first half of the film, I think, and which is all great. And I also love the part with Brad Dourif coming onto the set really for the first time on a Chucky set live, because he did all this, except for the
voice work,
first film, he did all voice work inside of the voice work box, right? But he came in to support his daughter, and that's so fantastic. And I think they said he fell asleep under the table one time. Was that him? What they were talking about?
Well, and I think, but I mean, we definitely get all these kind of stories about the making of the movies, but then him and like Billy Boyd, is that his name?
Billy Boyd, yes.
Talking about like, we don't think about that. We always think about like Chucky, Brad Dourif is such a big part of this franchise, but all of his lines are in the past have mostly been just delivered in some empty room.
Yep.
We don't think about that. We just think he's probably on set offset saying stuff. And yeah, I think that moment where he talks about he showed up because of his daughter being part of it, really that, again, the whole family affair type thing, which is a parallel to Kyra and her dad,
yes,
growing up, watching him making the films and stuff, and sort of like Chucky almost being a part of her family in the process of it. So it's kind of cool seeing these different things, or just the makeshift relationships that happen, such as Alex and the
Christina.
They're how they've almost become like sister brother in the process of this, and also reconnecting because we've been to a lot enough horror conventions. We've seen, I think, what was it, Mad Monster Party? Alex Vincent was there that one year when we had a table there, whatever.
Yes, he was. He was right across from us.
Yeah. So you sort of see, that's the cool thing about anything when things become popular. you get to reconnect with people they used to act with, and those relationships sort of start anew in a new way.
I thought it was interesting too when they talked about conventions and how they've never met anybody but nice people at conventions. Now on social media, they said it's about 50-50, but in terms of the convention, people are very, very nice in general. So.
Well, and that as someone that's been to enough conventions, that's the truth, because people are showing up to see you and they're excited, but online, everybody just wants to be a troll and an a-hole to you, for no reason.
I also like that how Brad Dourif was appreciative that they brought on Jennifer Tilly to have somebody to act against.
Which
was a really great insight. I mean, that's the insight you want in these, is that emotional insight. I mean, there's plenty of technical stuff in here, because they talk a lot about the practical effects, which is really great too.
Puppeteers and all that stuff.
Yeah, but the emotional stuff is what really grounds it.
Well, I thought it was interesting to me too how they started like it was Kevin Yeager to begin with, but then when they started cutting the budget, they wouldn't give him, the money that he wanted. They couldn't afford. I was trying to look this up, and I don't see Tony Gardner's name anywhere with Bride of Chucky. So it was like Seed of Chucky, apparently, when he
that might be true. I can't
got
remember.
on board, but at any rate, when they talked about how many puppeteers it took, and then the actors talked about acting where you're focusing on the doll, but yet you've got like all these people around making the doll do its stuff. And how you have to do it. You might have to do it over and over and over again because they couldn't get the doll to do the thing they wanted it to do. And then also that as time went on with that, even they cut them back to where they could only afford 3 puppeteers, So all along the way they're getting, and I don't see it suffering. They still look pretty good to me, even in the TV series. So
they look great. Yeah.
They're learning and getting better and better and more economical at their craft, I guess.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It looks like Seed of Chucky was the first one he did. So, I mean, it's it really hits the mark, and they do a great job with it.
Well, yeah, and they even talked about how, like, I think in the first film they had a little person who was walking around like Chucky, and then like the second or third, they kind of, I mean, there's that one part where the Chucky's hanging on to her back, and his leg is going like this, and I was like, actually, that still holds up. That looks very realistic. Although I feel like they might have gone back to having some little people playing him in the series in certain scenes, but sometimes you just have to find the right. But it's still practical. A lot of it's practical, and that's the good part.
Most of it,
most of it is. There's some CGI in the series, but although I think for me, I think because this is made before it almost feels like an added thing at the very end involving the series. I kind of wish they expanded it with more information about working on the series and how that's expanded. So
do part 2.
I
do like, there was one element that was like the budget for, I think, Cult of Chucky was was less than the budget Kevin Yeager had to do the practical effects in the first film. So
well, wasn't that when it started going? Were those
they were straight to video.
They were straight to video. Yeah. I think that's also the problem. Going to straight to video kind of strangles your budgets, because you're not trying to make a budget that you have expectations it's going to make a lot of money at the box office, and you don't know how home video is going to be. So yeah, they would reduce that. Although it's kind of interesting now. I feel like those episodes of Chucky the series probably had more money than some of the movies had. But yeah, it is kind of sad. And I think that's why a lot of your movies, when it came to straight to video sequels, didn't have that same polish, So it's sort of like, what was it I watched recently? It wasn't The Howling. It was, what was the Joe Dante werewolf movie?
That's The Howling.
Yeah. The Howling. Okay. You see The Howling 2, and
how
they kind of dip. But yeah. But I think even though there is this main sort of like highway we're taking to sort of get to the whole family element, there are all these little tidbits and stuff in the making of and behind the scenes stuff that I haven't really learned from special features, and it adds that kind of extra little, you know, element of oomph to it that makes it sort of fun. It's like, oh, that's kind of cool. Or even the whole story where Meg Tilly's talking about kissing Fiona Dorff, you know, things
leaving
like
all
that.
the
Yeah, just really
funny
funny stories, you know. Yeah, this is a sweet, fun, heartfelt documentary that's just, it's kind of just, it makes you smile by the end of it, you know. I mean, even just seeing some of the little home movies and stuff, you know, with her when she's a little girl, and seeing that, you know, she was 3 years old when the movies, when he's working on the movies, and now she's, you know, she's making her own films. And so that's really, I don't know. It's a beautiful movie.
Yeah, because it's been almost 20 years since he was involved with it. Yeah, so that's crazy. Jeff, last word before we get to our final thoughts and stuff.
No, I learned a lot, and I love like I said, as somebody who's not been involved in making a movie, I found all of it interesting. Everything from decisions over the genesis of the character, to the animatronics, to the special effects, to the the relationship of the cast and crew, and what it does to your family life, etc. So
excellent. All right, well, let's go ahead and give our score 1 to 5, and the thing that touched you the most. I guess that's weird way to put it, but we can call HR. Jeff, why don't you get us started?
You should say that like Chucky. Why did it touch you the best?
In terms of a documentary, I'm going to give this a 5. I can't think of too many things I didn't see that I wanted to see. And in terms of the thing that touched me the most, since I'm going first, I'm going to say when Brad Dourif was telling his daughter how impressed he was with her acting.
Yes.
And she seemed genuinely surprised, and like he had never actually said that to her before. I thought it was
her reaction was great.
Yeah, it was a tearful moment. Let's put it that way.
There was a couple like that in this movie.
Yeah.
This documentary. Christopher, your thoughts?
I think this is a well-made documentary. I'll give this a 4.5 out of 5. I think it really hits its stride the last, 40% or the last 30%, especially when it hits on the whole family aspect of it. And I think, and it even kind of connects all the other random elements, even though they're kind of involved with Tony from different movies they've been in, just how all these different people, when it comes to family and how family changes things, or having a family and making movies, and how that process becomes a little more complicated sometimes, especially when it comes to wanting to spend time with your family. You kind of stole my part, Jeff. But you know what? I think this is kind of connected to that, but I think when Fiona Dorff talks about like how it's kind of funny how when she's on these movies, her dad's always on the floor doing some kind of special effect, and then in the process of the interview, he's laying under the table.
Yes,
right.
So it kind of feels like they're on set. So I just thought that was kind of funny how life imitates art.
Yeah. I'll follow that up. The moment when she was like, she was hoping that it wasn't going to be her father's voice. When Fiona Dorff said, "I don't, her father's voice."
Oh,
they pre-record his voice, and then she's going to hear her father, but it's her father. It's not Chucky, right? She's going to hear her father. But then when it actually happened, it made it more intense and more disturbing. So I thought that was an interesting insight that I didn't expect. And if it's not that, it's going to be the kiss with Meg Tilly, not Meg Tilly. Is it Meg Tilly? Do I have the right name? I don't want to get the wrong Tilly. Yeah, Jennifer Tilly. I don't know why Meg Tilly came in mind.
Well, she popped up in the series.
She did. But I'll give this a 4.5 as well. I genuinely think this is one of the better of these made out there, and it's because of the emotional grounding of it. That really sets it apart, and really appreciate it. Good work, and it's also really well done.
Yeah,
it's really well done.
Also, another thing that I probably could have picked is the when both Kyra and Fiona connect with it, they hate seeing it. We talked about like Fiona hates seeing her dad die.
Yeah.
And then
Yes.
and then Kyra talks about seeing her dad die in the movie.
Because his head gets lopped off.
Oh, right.
Seed, yes.
So it's kind of they have that same kind of connection, being father-daughter, in the movies.
Yeah. Or when Billy Boyd's trying to remember John Waters' name, the guy with the
I
don't know why that sticks out to me, but I thought that was hilarious.
You're right, though, but these movies are way advanced in terms of the LGBTQ agenda. You go clear back to Seed of Chucky
You can go earlier,
for the transgender puppets in the movie.
Well, and I think that's the cool thing is when you have somebody who's able to tell their own type of stories and inject characters and stuff that they want to see their reflection of themselves in their own community. That's why we need to see more stories told, from different perspectives.
And that's embraced so widely too. It's a great thing. So, all right. Well, there you go. Check this out on Screambox out there. I think you'll really enjoy it. So make sure you check out that. If at the very least, just get the 7-day trial and catch up with what they got to offer.
This is worth, getting Screambox for, just to see the stuff.
Hey, I got to tell you, I mean, I signed up for Screambox, and I think it was like they had a special. It was like $40 for a year. Like I thought, I don't know how much I'll watch it, but for $40, I'll go dive in. I'll dive in.
Yep. We love Shudder, but Screambox. There's plenty of room out there.
God, I keep subscribing to more and more stuff.
All right, well, there you go. We'd love to hear your comments down below. Leave some thoughts, and we can't wait to hear what you think of this. And check this out. I think that's just what I'm going to say. I don't think I've been so enthusiastic to say check this out, because I've really enjoyed this. Christopher, Jeff, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
It was. I had fun watching it too.
I love seeing something positive in the horror space that's sort of celebrates, filmmaking and family. So, yeah,
that's not what you expect, or that's not what I expected going into this. I thought it was going to be far more technical. So, I didn't read up on it. Should have.
I'd like to see what she does after this.
Yes.
Maybe she'll direct her own horror films. Have her dad do the effects. That'd be great.
Yeah, perfect. All right, well, let's get out of here. Let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.
Gruesome Magazine.